Hello. Hi, Fabian, Faye Short here. And I just want to encourage you to watch video one. If you have not yet watched video one, please go back and watch video one. Therefore, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you need to be listening in on this, because it may not be for you, it may be for somebody you know. If that's the case, please feel free to share this with them. Go back to video one and look that over. It talks about the research that I am doing on unconditional love, forgiveness, conflict, and just healthy relationships, healthy marriages. So um, I I don't want you to feel like because of my research that I'm predicting the outcome of a relationship, because I'm not. This is just helpful insight. I've already done the research for you, so feel free to listen in on what I have to say. Go back and watch video number one, and then watch video number two, and then come back and catch up with me here. So go ahead and pause it if you haven't seen video one and two, then come back to video three. Thank you. So before, in the last video, number one, I was asked about the Love Dare and Fireproof. So for those of you who do not know about the Love Dare, it is a book related to a movie called Fireproof. Fireproof is a #1 New York Times bestseller. So it's a movie. If you don't know about Fireproof, then you may know about the War Room. But I do like the Love Dare. I did try the Love Dare. The only thing that I would say about the Love Dare um, is that it doesn't discuss conflict. So let me just give you some information. The Love Dare is a 40-day challenge for husbands and wives to understand and practice unconditional love. So I do believe if you needed some ideas in order to practice unconditional love, this book is full of things that you could do for your spouse to show them unconditional love. But it does not discuss conflict, and I think that's one thing that I haven't yet made it to this book yet, to go through it all the way, because I felt that there were some things that need to be addressed before I was able to commit to all these challenges. So in that case, that was the answer to the question in video one. That's the reason I like the love languages by Gary Chapman, because it discusses conflict, and it may not discuss every type of conflict, but at least it does discuss conflict and some ways that you can resolve it by showing unconditional love to your spouse, and that's where you can get to the Love Dare. So now for this particular video, I will be discussing um, conflict, and it will have to be a part two. And this is why I'll tell you why. Part two of the video, conflict is just such another world. It's very complex, so that's the reason that there will have to be a number two to this video, because there's no way that I can cover the complexities of conflict in one 10-minute video. So I asked you to come back and watch video number two about positive confrontation. In that video, I'm going to be discussing another book that I'm reading called The Power of Positive Confrontation. So please, after this video, by next Tuesday, I should have that uploaded for part two to discuss positive confrontation. For this video, however, I did want to discuss an article that I read about conflict management styles of spouses in lasting marriages. Now, it interviews 144 spouses in this article, and they have been married for 35 years or more. So I kind of like the fact that it was long lasting marriages. That's the part that really call me. Not just, you know, marriage, but people who really want to be together for a long time. So that's one thing that caught my attention. And in this article, it discusses that conflict is inevitable. You will have it in any type of relationship that you're dealing with someone else, and it's just healthy. It's healthy to have conflict. Um, Conflict in a relationship, in a marriage, is necessary for the adaptation of the relationship to a higher level. So if you want to be in a non-superficial relationship, you are going to have to address conflict and adapt to conflict. You cannot run away from conflict. Being defensive about differences can cause negative feelings. Negative feelings are corrosive to the relationship, and it can bring minor conflict. Negative feelings can bring minor conflict as well. Conflict can be minor, conflict can be major. So for this particular article, it describes major conflict as something that was destructive and very disruptive in the marriage. So you have to define whether your conflict is minor or major. Um, and most major conflict that happened, excuse me, I had a pop up. Most major conflict that happened in a marriage or in a relationship occurred during child rearing years. So I did want to put that out to you. If you are married and you have small children under the age of 18 in the household, you may be dealing with some major conflict, or you may at one point deal with some major conflict in your marriage. So two types of conflict here are engaging and avoidant. Two types of conflict management skills, are engaging and avoidant. So most women are engaging, most women are expressive, and what it talks about in the study is that it is helpful for women to express negative feelings constructively. So when you want to think about constructive or destructive, constructive meaning, did the action resolve anything? Destructive meaning, did it undermine? So definitely it's okay to be engaging. Don't let anyone make you feel, even if you're a man, because roles are changing constantly now. You know, roles are changing constantly. So you may be an engaging man. For real, I have ran into engaging men, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to figure out whether or not, when you engage someone, is it to resolve or undermine? And tune in for part 2 of this video on conflict, because we're going to discuss some of those things. But they have found to be that a majority of men are avoidant. And this is something that is a difference between men and women. Some men and women, they can either have flight or fight. Those are avoidant conflict management skills. So if you're a fighter, you're avoidant. And if you're a flighter, you leave, you're being avoidant. You're not resolving anything, and being avoidant can undermine your relationship, causing destruction. So we just covered that. Avoidance can also be through denial. So if you are denial, men, women, you know, these roles are changing. So it could be some women out here in denial too. Avoidance creates chronic tension in the relationship. That means that this is not going to go away. This conflict is not going to go away because you're not taking the steps to resolve the conflict. Now, there are cases where avoidance is necessary, and I'm going to talk about that. But it's in a positive way that is constructive, okay? Not destructive, constructive. So men are typically more avoidant because they have grown up to become more independent. I'm sorry, more independent. They can do things by themselves. They have a autonomy as far as a mental thing, like, I'm good by myself. Whereas women are known to respect relationships with people, and want to continue relationships with people. So they're more tolerant. Women are more tolerant of negativity within a relationship because they value the relationship. So I just want to put that out there. You may not agree. I'm just going by information from the study. And not giving any of my personal views on this. I just want to put this out here to you for information. So a part of this in saying about being constructive or destructive is, don't do things that will make it worse. That's as simply as I can put it. Is for you not to do things that can make negative feelings worse, can make negative behavior worse. And it says here that a study found that unresolved conflict fed and reinforced negative interaction between spouses. The resulting defensive behaviors perpetrated dissatisfaction and estrangement between spouses. So if you don't resolve this conflict, end result, estrangement. Okay. So it has to be a way to go about fixing this, unless you don't want to fix things with your partner. But if you do care, and both people should want to care if they want to be together, you should want to find a way to address conflict so that doesn't become chronic. Okay, so we've discussed the two types, engaging and avoidant, and the reasons that avoiding is not helpful. Um, Now let's talk about ways of adapting to conflict. And something that was found in this study that they did not even think of finding, but in interviewing these 144 spouses, they shed some insight on how they were able to overcome and adapt in their own marriages. And just to give you some background, some of these people were white, 64%, 36% were African American, various religious backgrounds. The average age of these people was 60. So those people in marriages, 30s, 20s, you got a long way to go. But hold in there, stick with it, okay? 42%, all of these people had kids. Okay, all of these people had kids, and the differences, um, there were differences as far as the gross income of the family as well, from less than $25,000 a year to over $75,000 in annual income a year. So money, race, religion, everybody has conflict. Okay. Um, Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. I just want to express something to you and make sure you got that. So to wrap all this up, because I don't want to go over my time frame with you. They adapted to their marriage. The couples adapted by learning how to communicate about the difficulties communicating. So, for instance, there was one couple who, the man, he grew up in a family that was taught to just zip it and work hard, be a man, all that emotional stuff, just lock it up, okay? Throw it away. Be a man, take care of your family. His wife, she she didn't know how the relationship was going really. She just was like, I think it's positive because we're still together, but I understand that he's a very quiet person and he doesn't talk about a lot of things. Now, in the five love languages, there was a couple like that, and her needs weren't being met. She had a need for quality time and being able to talk to her spouse, and because he was so locked up and just didn't know how to communicate, it was very difficult for them. So um these people have learned that they do in this particular article have learned for this couple that there is a difficulty communicating about their relationship. So talk about that difficulty that helps you to adapt in the relationship. Also, for other couples, they have coined the term selective understanding for a spouse who has an experience, maybe something sensitive to that person, whether or not they've had a trauma in their life, PTSD, addictions, things that may be traumatic, childhood traumas, neglect in childhood, or just differences in your personal backgrounds, how you all grew up. You grew up totally different from the way this person grew up. You have to have selective understanding. Now, that does not negate the fact that that person's behavior is bothering you. So, like I said before, if you want to be in the relationship, there has to be an adjustment by both sides. In adapting and possibly a behavior change. It could possibly be a behavior change. Therapy is suggested for those who do need a behavior change. Um, Now, it may be temporary, it may be something that you have to continue with for the rest of your life, but therapy is recommended for people who need help with behavior changes. Um, However, back to selective understanding. Being able to understand that your spouse is different from you. They may have, you have to be sensitive enough to understand that they may have went through some things in their childhood that you didn't go through. You don't have the same experiences as they had. However, that does not take away from the fact that you don't have to learn how to accept the differences in your relationship as well and communicate about those differences. Okay? Um, Learn to accept differences as a strength in your relationship and how to deal with those strengths in the relationship. And that's where I want to say that avoidant nature, it may be sometimes okay not to go a certain place with the spouse. Like some things you can't just tap on and use um, and discuss with the spouse. Some things have to be avoided, and you have to learn how to adapt to saying that person has a difficulty communicating about that thing with you. You know what I'm saying? But they have to be honest. They have to be honest and tell you, you know, adaptation. I have an issue with this. This is what it is, and I'm telling you that I'm going to have a difficult time talking to you about this particular situation. So, if you could be a little bit more sensitive and selective in understanding this, then we can adapt and we can get on a totally different level, and I still love you the same. Okay? So look at it as a strength. Okay, that's the third thing that led to the adaptation of conflict handling skills in marriage. Um, for example, you may consider your spouse to be a nagging person, and they may have a negative startup. Which, if you don't know what negative startup is, it's when a person comes to you and they say, you know what? I can't stand this, or I can't stand you ain't wash these dishes. You won't help me do nothing. You don't vacuum, clean, nothing like that. Blah, 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 blah. You don't take me out. They just, something about them when they come to you and they approach you is negative, and you already know. Okay, so that's a negative startup, and you may consider it to be nagging. Okay, that's another thing. But however, it's important to look at the strength of this person, because this person may be very motherly, be very caring, may be concerned about something, and they may be having a negative startup because it's a stressor to them. So you have to communicate about these things and understand that they may not be, it may not be nagging in their head, but it may be them being very, like their nature motherly, or their nature might be more caring, nurturing, sensitive to certain aspects that might interfere with them being able to be a motherly, caring, nurturing type of person. Okay, so keep that in mind. Like, it's always a flip to the coin. So, and keep that in mind when you're dealing and adapting and communicating about difficulties. Having selective understanding and acknowledging the differences and using those as strengths. Um, Work on your marital roles, work on your relationships, um, and be responsive to your partner's needs and expectations of you. Um, you can't just avoid it. So that's part one. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. I might have to do this in 3 parts because I'm running over time, but